Where are you coming from, and what have you learned?
I, I, I don't know, to be honest, where I'm coming from. I'm
Okay.
just, it,
And what have you learned?
I'm just, what have I learned? I have learned that I can't run away from things. Like I had been procrastinating on my task. Like not necessarily procrastinating. There was urge for it, but I could see it clearly. And because I could see it clearly, the fact that I'm avoiding it, it was like I couldn't even avoid it. It was in the middle state where, yeah,
Mental state where what?
where I can't use my avoidance mechanisms because I know I'm avoiding it.
So what mental
So
state
I
is
had
that?
to
What mental state is that?
frustration or
Frustration.
uneasiness
Okay.
in the sense that I can't. It's like between a rock and a hard place kind of
And
thing.
what mental state are you in now? Where are you coming from?
I am a bit tired and I don't know what's going on.
So you're unconscious at the moment. Okay, we can work with that. All right. So, uh, what have you learned again? I'm sorry.
I have learned that I can't run away from things and I just need to
Well, you certainly can't run away from
accept
your
that.
own mind, right?
How how can I run away from my own mind?
You can't run
Everyone
away
like
from your
we
own
prove
mind.
it.
You can't run away from your own mind. So maybe you've learned some of your mind's tricks. Let's find out. So, what was your mind telling
Yeah.
you these days? What has your mind been telling you these days?
It's
That you can't run away from things, right?
yeah, and
Who can't run
like
away from things?
who the one listening to that advice.
So, there's two of you.
I don't identify with whatever thing that was speaking to me. At least I don't
So it's a
sense
foreign.
myself
It's a
in that.
foreign installation. That's a Toltec term. It's a foreign installation installed on your brain.
Yeah, like similar to demons, I would say. Demon.
Well, don't jump right immediately to definitions. So you have a little voice in your brain telling you stuff, or what? What? I don't get it. Who's talking? What's talking?
It's talking whenever things get tough, it basically says it's most of it is just thought. Or it basically says look at
I'm
what's
aware it's
exactly
thought,
happening.
but where's the thought coming from?
Where is the thought coming from?
Yeah, you say there's two
It
of you,
just
right?
comes. It comes in my brain and
Are there
goes
any other
away.
thoughts, sources of thought in your brain?
I don't know.
All right,
I
you need
don't
to get
think
to
so.
know your you need
But
to get to know your operating system. You need to get to know the program, right? Because if you're going to master this thing, unless you just want to be enslaved by it, but that's just suffering, pure suffering for a lifetime. So you need to get to
yeah,
know the mechanisms of mind, and you need to get a model in your head. And sounds like it needs reprogramming, frankly. You know how people insert new software and reboot?
yeah.
All right. Okay.
So, but how? Yeah,
Oh, how?
yeah.
Questions?
How does one reprogram it? Especially when
Good question.
in my current state, reprogramming feels like unpleasant. This is what I observed even my in my procrastination as well. Like in my current state, I feel that task is really unpleasant. It's like I'll be living through a hell. But when I actually did the tasks, it was nothing like that. In fact, I was fully into it. Like I didn't know what else was going on.
So 2 points. I think. One is you can't even enjoy your procrastination, right?
Yeah, that.
And
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
when you got down to work, it wasn't nearly as bad as your mind had told you it was going to be.
yeah.
So your mind is
It's just an
inaccurate. It's
illusion of a.
inaccurate, and it's crippling.
Yes,
Okay.
essentially yes.
So what do you think? Wouldn't a new program be nice?
Yeah, but how can you program yourself if your current state says that current state is the best thing to do?
Okay. First of all, right now we're talking about the past.
Yeah.
But in that past, when you were procrastinating, you were also thinking about the future.
Yes.
Okay. So, but all the action occurs in the present. And so, when I was in college, I studied psychology. And then when I was in medical school, I studied psychiatry and neurology. And then I did a residency. I studied the mind, psychiatry, for 4 years formally after medical school, right? And then I spent a lifetime, and I'm an old man, studying the mind. That's my specialty. But you've asked me a very specific question. How can you reprogram it? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Instead of the program that got installed in their happenstance by, your parents, the schools, the media, your friends, the culture, all of this stuff, is there a better program? And as a matter of fact, there is. And the best one that I've found in a lifetime of looking is actually quite old. And the mind scientists that did this, at the time they were called Buddhists. But you might as well have just called them Sufis. Or you could just call them Taoists. But because they were located in a particular part of the world, they were called Buddhist and they used Buddhist terms. Okay? These days, I don't know what they'd use. But these incredibly sophisticated mind scientists created a reprogramming process that basically programs your mind and supercharges your mind to wake up and get enlightened and basically be a bodhisattva. So that's the whole package, though. So you can't just take pieces of it. So if you ask me my recommendation, I don't know what you want. But if you were okay with being a Buddha, or being an enlightened person, or being an awake person, then there's a way to go. This has been worked out. But reprogramming a mind is not something that happens overnight, thank God, right? And then also you have to be very careful, because do you really want to be a Buddha? Do you really want to be a bodhisattva? Right? Because we're talking about your mind here. Now, I also spent 1.5 years with the Marines, and they reprogrammed my mind too, interestingly, even in spite of me, right? When I was a young man. Yeah. And so I've got that program still. Now, I don't need it. I don't particularly want it, but I can tell that I've got it, because all I have to do is see someone says Semper Fi or holds up a flag, or I see the Marines in the movies or something like that, and I immediately identify with them, and I feel like proud automatically. And I'm always rooting for that guy. So I'm permanently, but not permanently, I suppose I could get rid of it, but it'd be very difficult. So I don't recommend that program, right? Although if you really wanted to be a soldier, you could do a lot worse. All right?
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I didn't actually end up in the Marine. I was in a Marine boot camp for 1.5 years, because I was having troubles as a young man, as a very young man, a teenager. And I didn't go to war or anything like that. Now, in a wartime, that might be a very good program to have, especially if you're with your buddies and you got to get a job done. And then there's other training programs or reprogramming programs. But they're around in the world. You just have to see them for what they are. So what do you want? Before we can talk about reprogramming your mind, what do you want?
I want to face my fear.
Okay.
Like I found
Well, then this is the one.
I found two parts of a procrastination thing. One is laziness, and the another one is fear. And fear basically blocks you from like doing things essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, fear is a monster.
I also know it's just a thought.
Well,
Like anything,
let's just stay right there
not
with
a,
fear
yeah.
and laziness. Those are the two words you use. Let's just sit on those for just a moment. How bad can the fear be if you've got laziness?
I'm not trying to be lazy, and I have reduced that a lot. So most often procrastination is because of fear these days.
Fear. Okay.
Fear of
But do you see how if you're using the word laziness, I'm not. I don't particularly like that word.
yeah.
I prefer lack of discipline and lack of effort and maybe lack of energy and lack of insight. Right? Because if you had those four things, you wouldn't have the laziness. Okay, so fear. You say it's mainly fear. Pardon me?
I have a question. What do you mean by lack of insight in case of laziness?
Well, you're using this word laziness. I don't like that word. But people do things for a reason. And if they know what they want, then normally they just go and get it. But something's blocking you from doing that. So to know what you want, or once you've decided what you want, it takes a certain amount of energy, patience, discipline, and insight to get it, right?
So one question regarding that, I don't know what I want. And
well, if you don't know what you want, you're
reasons
lost. You're totally lost. You're no wonder you're afraid. And no wonder you're lazy if you don't know what you want. But I'm willing to guess that what you want, just tell me if I'm wrong, is you want to be happy and peaceful.
Yeah, that's...
And to love and be loved.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Don't let me talk you into it. If you don't know what you want, you need to think about that.
No, it is that those are the exact thing. The peace of mind. I don't want to keep fighting every day. That's, yeah.
Okay. You're suffering.
Yeah.
And you don't want to suffer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
Ask. If what you say is true, how much suffering do you need before you decide to get rid of it?
I don't know.
Neither do I. So maybe you just need to suffer
I
some more.
won't
Maybe you just
control
need to suffer some more until you realize that road leads to just more suffering, and it just keeps going.
I kind of know that, in the sense that I know that the moment I achieve it, there will be a new goalpost, and I will still be disappointed. And
a new what?
The moment I achieve my desires, there will be a new goalpost.
Oh, you know that, right? You know that?
Again.
You know that?
But I don't know why I still do that.
Wait a minute.
Why
How do you know
still
that? How do you know that?
Because there have been instances in my life where I have reached pretty good.
So you're using
and I'm
inference.
grateful for that.
You're using inference from the past. In the past it was like this, so it must be like that in the future.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, well
That
that's something else. That's stupidity, right? I mean, you can't. I don't know if you can
could
fix
be.
that. But if you're saying that your future will be like your past because you know that your past is an absolute predictor of the future, then what can you say? You need
No,
to,
I'm not.
what can I? There's then why are we even talking if you know?
No, I don't know for sure. I know that things will change. I don't know whether it will go for good or bad.
They'll be for bad. I'm
Honestly, because
telling
I
you. I'm
still
telling
think
you. They'll be for bad if you don't know what you want and you keep wasting your life floundering around not knowing what you want because you don't want to do the take the effort or be bothered, then you'll just suffer some more. The only question is how much do you want to suffer? So why don't you decide that and then get back to me if you want. But you got to decide if you how much suffering do you want to take?
I don't know, and I don't even know what does it mean to how much suffering. How can you quantify it? But sure, I can compare
Well,
it,
enough
but
to I
I don't
mean,
know.
people typically they have to suffer enough to where they realize that they need to change and they sincerely want help. But you're not at that point. So it sounds like you need to suffer some more. If you want to be free of suffering, there's a way to get there. But you don't sound like you're interested in that.
No, I I am, but yeah,
So there's an arrogance also.
um,
You have this I know better idea.
if if I do know that some, yeah, that
Okay. Well, why don't you get back to me when you've suffered enough? Does that make sense? Because otherwise, I'm just talking into the wind.
yeah.
You need to decide what you want to do, what you want out of life. You need to decide how much suffering you. Okay, but life is suffering unless you do something about it. That's just the way it is. And so your belief structure, your conditioning, your very being at this point is wired for you to suffer. Apparently.
Mm,
All right, sir. Any questions before we stop?
yeah. No.
Okay, so you're going to just spin into some despair now and go into the poor me's and the pity party, the old routine.
No. Um, I can't go there because I know it's just saying to myself that poor me, that won't change anything. It's just a way to like not put in any effort and a way out of this. I Yeah.
So is all of your mind saying the same thing? There's no light in there at all.
No, there is.
Where's the light?
I can't pinpoint it, but it's there.
What's blocking the light?
My thoughts about everything, about saying I need to I need to be doing this. I need to be earning so much, comparing myself to others, and saying
Okay,
that
that's it.
I can't put in that much effort at all, and like I can't improve myself, or like for example, when I do a plank, my mind is saying I can't ever cross the 1 minute threshold. Like
When you what? I'm
it's
sorry. When you what?
uh, I can't cross the 1 minute threshold at all.
What's a
Or like
one
I
minute
can, but
threshold?
I
A 1 minute
can
threshold of what?
on holding a plank or
Holding it.
just
Holding a what?
plank in the plank position, the
You mean the yoga
gym
position?
related things. Yeah, the plank.
Yoga?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're sad because you can't
I
hold a
mean,
plank for a minute?
uh, it's saying that I won't improve, or I don't know. I want to improve, but my mind always goes against it.
Whose mind always goes against it?
Whose mind? I don't know whose it is,
Okay, well,
but it's there something outside me.
okay, so there's a foreign installation in your mind
Yeah,
because you're saying it's not. You're saying it's doing this to me. My
yeah,
thoughts, all right? So this is an object in your mind. That's what we call a foreign installation, or what Eckhart Tolle calls a pain body, or what the
yeah,
psychoanalysts call a superego uh, id complex, right?
yeah.
Combination of those two that torture you. So, what are you going to do about that? I mean, that sounds pretty bad.
I'll just feel it. That's what I've been
You
doing
say,
these
I
past
feel
few
it.
weeks.
Who feels it?
Awareness. The one
Okay,
who is
all right, all right, all
not
right.
even talking to you, who's
So that awareness
able to
is the
touch
light.
both.
That awareness is actually the light.
Yeah,
You've mistaken a rock in a stream for the stream, believe it or not. You've seen yourself as a fixed object when in fact everything is flowing.
actually, yeah, that's precise. I would say
That's what?
that's that's precise. I would say.
Okay, so you're blocking the flow, the natural flow of the light of awareness, which will guide your path. But you got to give it some help. I mean, you got to give it some help. Otherwise, you would just squish it. I mean, frankly, though, the vast majority of humanity does not cotton to this. The majority of humanity just says, "Oh well, this is my state, and I'm just going to stay here, suck my thumb, and suffer."
I'm I'm fine with it. Last few weeks, I have not been running away from it, and I'm just feeling it
Running away from what?
rather than my the pain that I thought I would face, or if I feel any
Where do you run
uncomfortable, I would
to?
just
Where do you
avoid
run
it.
to when you say you're running away from the psychological pain? Where do you go?
I would say I don't run away from it. I reduce its feeling or just numb it to some extent, but
How?
not run away
How?
by distracting myself
With what?
by with something in front of me,
Like what?
just watching some YouTube videos or just
Video
sometimes
games?
scrolling.
Video games?
I haven't played that for quite a few weeks now.
Good, I suppose. Okay, so watching YouTubes. What YouTubes distracts you from your suffering?
Just any random thing that doesn't require any
So you're just
thinking
putting
as
random
such.
stuff in your brain, whatever happens to be on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that a lot of that is poison, right?
Yeah.
How do you tell the poison
But
from the medicine on YouTube?
it's how do I? This is the problem that I face. I
Well, you're a
just
grown man. You got to be able to tell poison from
mm,
medicine, food from poison. You got
no
to
that,
be. Go ahead.
but I think that was not the problem for me. What I realized the problem was I just want to impress. I just want to impress you, so I just want to like come up with a perfect answer, not even thinking sometimes.
I don't need a perfect
Just
answer. I
telling
just need
you,
someone pointed in the right direction. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. If you're pointed in another direction
yeah,
and you've decided on another path, then that's fine too. I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their
No.
life, but you're the one who says you're suffering, and you're the one who says you'd like to suffer less, and there's a path that leads beyond suffering, and it's open to you, but you don't want to take it. So, I'm not here
But
to
I
argue
don't
with you.
know
Pardon me?
what to.
You don't know
But
what
what I don't know what to go, like what to do. Like I have been
Well, first of all, you
feeling.
don't just feed random garbage into your mind off of the internet. So you protect your mind. You don't just feed it garbage. Just like if you just fed your body garbage and mixed in there was poisons and all kinds of other toxins and stuff, you'd get pretty sick. If you just ate food off that you found on the street, that's what you're doing on YouTube, sounds like.
So what can I do if I'm not watching any YouTube?
I didn't say not
Like
watch
my
YouTube. Where'd you get not watched YouTube?
no, like at least reduce it, or it's more
How
like
about learning to tell the difference between poison and medicine?
one way is to just take it, but that won't work.
Not for long. You'll get sick.
Yeah, yeah.
So how can you
Maybe
tell
just
poison from
look.
food or medicine on YouTube?
I I would have to decide myself and look
Right.
into it.
Very good.
But
Very good. So how about that? How about that as something to do? Try and sort out what is nourishing, what is medicinal, what is healing, what has hope and guidance and insight, and what is just garbage that people put on there so they get some clicks or get some eyes or get some attention. I mean, that's a very sophisticated machine.
yeah,
I mean, the machine is controlling the algorithm. The machine doesn't give a holy crap about you. Now, you can change the algorithm, but you have to change it yourself. You have to you have to push like buttons, and you have to I don't know how else you could do it. You could push like buttons and spend more time on the medicine and the food, and the algorithm will give you more of that. But if in between you go, hey, well, here's a little medicine, here's a little poison, here's a little food, here's a little, pure sugar, then you're just going to get a mixed feed, and it'll just be garbage. I mean, we should be thankful that we still have that control over the algorithm so far. Otherwise, you have to get off the whole thing because it's totally toxic. No? So, I mean, it's a matter of taking responsibility for yourself. And you're not going to take responsibility for yourself. No one else really is going to either. I mean, maybe your mother, your father, maybe, for a while. But it comes to a man sooner or later. Hey, I'm responsible for my own life here on this earth. I'm responsible for my experience here on this earth. And so, is it possible that you're making decisions passively?
yes,
Okay, well then
that's
there
a
comes a
strong
point when you have
possibility.
to stand up on your own 2 feet, face the world, face the day, and say, I'm making this decision for myself. Because no one can make it for you. I mean, they can pretend to for a little while, but it won't last. So you stand on your own 2 feet, you face the day, and you say, I'm making this decision about my life. But you got to mean it. It's a choice. I mean, this is what people say. There's no free will. This is what we mean by free will: standing up on your own 2 feet and making a choice. Do you want freedom or servitude? I mean, it's your choice. Most people choose servitude, frankly. As you know, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And if you want to be one of them, you don't have to do a thing. That'll be your lot. On the other hand, if you decide you want to do something else and not live a life of desperation, quiet or not quiet, that is an active decision. This is the beauty of Christianity. You have to decide. Now, Christianity is just one of the programs. There are other programs. They lead, I mean, so you got to decide. I mean, you could also go into the military for that matter. I'm not recommending that, obviously. But you could go into some other, join a cult. There's a lot of those in India. Pick a god and just follow that god, whatever that, whoever it may be.
That won't work. That's, yeah.
Well, it works. It works. It doesn't work for intelligent people usually. I shouldn't say that. It usually doesn't work for intelligent people in this day and age. Because it's got particulars to it, right? It's not as free. For freedom, there's the Taoists and there's the Buddhists. Because in the end, the Buddhists say that this world is Buddha. This universe, this reality is Buddha. And so you're back in reality again, right? In the realm of reality. And you've left reality for an artificial world that's created in your mind, fed by these feeds of poison and manipulation that are the lot of most of humanity in the industrialized world. And they really don't care about you at all.
What can I do? Like, I've been like, whenever I try to do something, a thought always pops up. I know I can't.
Right, and it's a crappy
Stop
thought.
myself
You
from
can
thinking.
replace those thoughts with better thoughts. You can replace those thoughts, those poisonous, self-defeating, destructive thoughts. You can replace those with positive thoughts. Now, for you, knowing what I know about you, I would recommend the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Flower Ornament Sutra, which is designed for exactly what you're talking about. And it's very, very sophisticated. It's for the very intelligent, frankly.
I've been reading that for 3 weeks now.
How far have you gotten in it?
Reset mode.
How far are you in it?
I'm still in the first book, just going through.
So 3 weeks to read one
different-
chapter? How much are you reading per day?
I think it's page 100.
Page 100?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the first book, is it?
It is the first book.
The Wonderful Adornments of the Leaders of the World? Yeah, okay. All right, with the intro, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read from that just a little bit.
Yes.
Furthermore, the night spirit, pure light of universal virtue, found the door of liberation of great courage and strength in the bliss of tranquil meditation. The night spirit, observing the world with joyful eyes, found the door of liberation characterized by pure, delightful virtues. The night spirit, world-protecting energy, found the door of liberation appearing everywhere in the world, taming sentient beings. The night spirit, sound of a tranquil sea, found the door of liberation, accumulating a spirit of immense joy. The night spirit, everywhere manifesting splendor, found the door of liberation of the sound of profound, independent, pleasing speech. The night spirit, everywhere causing flower trees to bloom, found the door of liberation of a vast store of joy, full of light. The night spirit, egalitarian protector and nourisher, found the door of liberation, enlightening sentient beings and causing them to develop roots of goodness. The night spirit, in other words, developing good karma. The night spirit, sporting happily, found the door of liberation. What do they mean here when they say door of liberation?
A path to awaken, a way of awakening, I would say.
Or to freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom from what?
From constructing thoughts that basically
Exactly.
isolate
Very good. Very
self
good.
from.
The night spirit, and they're just talking in this page 100. They're speaking about night spirits and the doors of liberation
Yeah.
that they've discovered. And there's many doors of liberation, right?
Yes.
The night spirit, sporting happily, found the door of liberation of boundless compassion, rescuing and protecting sentient beings. The night spirit, all senses always joyful, found the door of liberation everywhere, manifesting the magnificent gates of great compassion. The night spirit, producing pure bounty, found the door of liberation, causing all sentient beings' desires to be fulfilled. At that time, the night spirit, pure light of universal virtue, imbued with the power of the Buddha, looked over the night spirits and said in verse, "You all should observe the Buddha's action, its vastness, serenity, and space-like character. Its shoreless sea of craving, and he purifies completely. The shoreless sea of craving, he purifies completely. His undefiled majesty illuminating all quarters. All beings like to see the Buddha, met with but once in countless eons, compassionately mindful of all beings, extending to all. This liberation, world observer sees. The guide saves and protects all worlds. All beings see him before them, able to purify all realms of existence. The world guardian ably observes. In the past, Buddha cultivated an ocean of joy, vast, boundless, beyond all measure. Therefore, those who see are all delighted. This is realized by silent sound." Okay, so can you see what this text is doing?
It is, how should I say, subconsciously pointing out the fact that there are a million ways of awakening, and
But some of them
because
work.
it never says,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead. Keep going.
and it never says how someone achieved it. It just says they found a door of liberation.
Well, you're on the
Never
first.
says,
You're on the first chapter.
yeah, yeah,
This has been worked out, right? I mean, we're talking. This is what, 2 millennia, and on the basis of this book, Zen was created, right? Every form of Buddhism, sophisticated form of Buddhism. Forgive my characterization, but that's what it is founded on this particular text. This was the original teaching of the Buddha. And then he had to water it down for women and men of different capacities. Now, for you, I'm saying that you have the intelligence, the capacity to be transformed by this. But it takes some patience, and you've read 100 pages.
yeah. It's too few, but yeah.
So there's 1,400 to go. But you should be happy about this. You don't know how rare it is to even encounter this book. It wasn't even translated into English until 1984 or something like that. You couldn't get to this book. And now more than ever, liberation is the name of the game. I mean, you have to have freedom of your own mind. Otherwise, you're going to be a complete slave to the AIs in the machine. And so now, since this world is Buddha, since this universe is Buddha, no one's asking you to necessarily worship anything, really. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
Now,
that would be
Christianity will get there
achievement,
too,
I
but
think.
that's kind of a byway for Christianity. That's the mystic byway for Christianity. And with Islam, the same thing. You kind of have to buy the package, at least for a while, until you realize who and what Allah or God the Father, what they are. Master and creators of the universe, right? And the universe at the same time.
I still have one problem. Why do I still separate myself from others? Why
You separate
I
yourself from
know-
yourself. You've got a war going on in there. Why? I mean, are you ready to be with others? I mean, you're not even integrated. Would you say you're integrated? It's your a whole person like pointed in one direction that you can say, hey, this is what I'm about. This is where I am. This is what I'm doing. This is why. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. But this is the direction I'm pointed. Until you can do that, why are you worried about being with other people? All you do is confuse them to just make it worse. Because how do you know that the person that you're attracted to won't be also conditioned by the same garbage that we've all been exposed to? Now, I could ask you for specifics, but I think it'd be more useful to just speak in generalities. Do you know what the Sangha is? The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha? No, the Buddha, the Sangha, the Dharma?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the Sangha, the Dharma, the Buddha. You know those three, right? The Sangha, the Dharma, the Buddha.
Yeah.
The order doesn't matter. What is the Sangha?
I think it's a gathering of people.
This is the
So,
Sangha. This is the Sangha. Right here, right now. And people watching. Now and in the future. And so you don't know that you're connected to everyone yet, but you will. You don't know that this whole effort, this whole impulse is part of a human impulse that's gone on since as long as we have human records. It's probably went on before that. It did, right? And this is the gift of India to the world. There'd be no Buddhism without India. There'd be no Zen without India. And so all I'm saying is that this is do you know how Americans didn't really discover rock and roll until it was brought over by the British? And they didn't understand the blues until the Europeans developed it, and then they could see it. It's kind of like that with India, you know? You don't realize what you're sitting on, this vast treasure, this storehouse of knowledge and wisdom. Now, what do we call the people that have cared for this, preserved it, and handed it from one generation to the next? What do you call those people? Sufis? Buddhists?
Depends.
Exactly. Or we don't have to call them anything. What you need to do is there's this current. They don't need a name. They really don't, and they're not interested in the name. Who cares? Buddhist, Sufi, Christian, it doesn't matter, you know. What matters is there's a reality, there's a current of reality that runs through humanity, through our consciousness. So visualize the consciousness of the planet. Most of it's just kind of chaos everywhere, just chaos and greed and fear and anger and da 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 da. But in the middle of all this, I'm describing a globe with a cloud around it, the cloud of the noosphere, the consciousness, right? In that there's a current that's running through it. It has always run through it, and will always run through it, which is the current of wisdom, insight, development, of positive, of love, of understanding. And so this is a current. It's like a river that runs through this ocean of consciousness. Now you're standing right next to the river, and you've actually got a boat, right? But no one's gonna try and trick you or force you into joining this stream. Forget the boat. Just getting into the stream of more developed understanding, consciousness, insight, etc. But in that stream, all these other woes go away. So if you decide you want to enter that stream, actually that's the metaphor they use, stream enterer. If you want to enter this stream of I want to say higher consciousness, but that's not it. It's more like this stream of humanity that looks out for others as well as itself at the same time, because it realizes there is no difference, and looks out for the planet because this planet is Buddha, this planet is God, right? I mean, that's not all God is, obviously. So if you want to join that, it's right there for you. It's welcoming, but it's not going to grab you and drag you in here, right?
Yeah.
But you have no idea how lucky you are to have even known about this book. You have no idea. If you did, you'd be like so full of gratitude. You'd be bowing down for centuries and centuries on end out of just sheer gratitude.
Right.
So the Sangha it's a word that you can use like the Dharma or like the Buddha. You can use it in a small, constricted way. And so this is how we got on this, forgive me. How to relate to others. Well, if you join a Sangha, the chances are you're going to find like-minded people. Now, they won't necessarily be trying to be the richest people on the planet. They won't necessarily be trying to find as much comfort as they can for themselves, but they're looking for truth. And they've come together, maybe out of suffering, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of, who knows, just great fortune. And these people, there you might be able to relate to people much more easily. And these spiritual communities are nourishing communities. They're not like what we have at work. I'm generalizing, but you know what I mean. These are communities, and there's communities in the US, there's communities all over the world where people come together because they find nourishment, they find healing, they find insight and knowledge about what comes next. This is not you're not alone on this road of trying to escape suffering. The Buddha himself, that was his whole deal. So as long as you involute the way you are and say, oh, me, all this is about me, the whole world's about me, the whole thing's about me, yeah, you're going to suffer like hell. But if you can take a break from that for just a bit and be part of the Sangha, and this is it, then you'll find that it's not so bad. You can manage it better. And maybe you'll meet people and it'll be easier for you to relate to people because they're of a like mind and they have the same goals. Questions? But it's your choice.
Yeah. I don't think I have.
Okay, sir. Well, listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes the darkest hour is before dawn. Oftentimes. Ask Eckhart Tolle about that. Ask Krishnamurti about that. The question is, how dark do you need it to get? The other thing is these guys were prepared when the time came. They had already made provisions. They already had what they needed, right? So
Yep.
only you can decide whether you want to, what team you want to play on this beautiful, marvelous planet that we find ourselves. Okay?
Yeah, it's just that there is a lot of resistance, but I'm
A lot
just
of what?
accepting it. And
Resistance?
there's usually a lot of resistance, but
Resistance
I'm
to
just
what? What resistance?
resisting the current situation, like not accepting sometimes some pain. But these for last few weeks, I have been just observing it, not running away from it.
Good.
So
Good. I wouldn't call it resistance. I'd call it
That's-
confusion. And trying to hang on to yourself as a teenager or a man that grew up confused or suffering and thought yourself to be, I don't know, something wrong with you or something like that. You're holding on to that identity for dear life because without that, your ego's nothing. That's your ego clawing, holding on for dear life. And wait a minute, if I give up my identity as someone who's like impaired and suffers more than everybody else or more than some people and it needs, I'm a helpless, passive, lazy, and fearful guy. That's the identity that you've decided on for yourself. That's your ego. your ego does not want to let go. So you could go through years of psychoanalysis, and many people have, and frankly, it doesn't work that well. That's why, you leave that behind, because it doesn't work that well. Alcoholics and things like that, they go through AA, and that works, but it substitutes, it gives them another identity, the ex-alcoholic, right? Plus, that doesn't apply to you. But it works. It works beautifully as a spiritual program. It just doesn't go far enough all the way in practice. Although if you actually read it, it talks about spiritual awakening, and then the only problem is sometimes the people get an identity, then they can't get rid of that identity, which is just substituting a new ego, a better one, but still the same, another identity. Religions, fantastic for some people, absolutely fantastic, the best. However, they're not for everyone. And if you look at the core of the religion, at the great truth of every one of these religions is the same across religions. I mean, it's the same thing. Honesty, integrity, courage, compassion, humility, an orientation towards God or Allah or God the Father or whatever, right? It's all the same. So you make your choices, but you need to make a choice or you will continually suffer. And so instead of resistance, perhaps it'd be useful for you to conceive it as, that is my ego with its pain bodies and its armies of demons. The Buddha talked about armies of demons, right? Coming to attack me. But the arrows won't hurt you. So you're right. Don't resist. Don't fight. Watch like you're doing. And just let it run through you. This river will wash everything clean. So good. Well, I'm glad you're on page 100. And as you're reading, let it do what it's designed to do. Okay, sir? Anything else before we stop?
No.
Okay.
That's it.
Vaya con Dios. Do you know what that means?
No.
It means go with God. Okay, sir?
Same.
Take good care.